Welcome back, and here she is, the Su-27 flanker. Now while it wasn't exactly what I expected it to be in this game, this thing is still an absolute weapon, which is mainly thanks to the fact that it carries 10 whole ass missiles, which is nothing short of absurd. And they're not just any missile, they are some of the best missiles in the game. We have 4 R-27ERs on the belly pylons, we then have 4 R-73s on the outer wing pylons, and then we have the inner wing pylons, which you can basically rock whatever you want. I run the ETs personally, I think they have very good utility and you can kind of just lob them off. You can also run extra 2 R-73s or you can run an extra 2 R-27ERs. You can also swap them out if you want, 1 ER, 1 ET, whatever you want. I like to run the ETs, they have insane reach, they don't warn anyone, and from behind they are extremely hard to defeat. This of course comes with its issues, and that's that you have 20 trillion weapon groups, because the R-73s are 2 groups, then the R-27ER is also a different group, and then if you run another group in the inner pylons, you're looking at 4 missile groups, and it's extremely annoying to cycle through. Next up is the gun. We have the Geshushi as per usual, 30mm, single barrel, hits hard, doesn't always hit hard. It's a bit of a bipolar gun, but most of the time it at least does significant damage if it doesn't just outright kill them. Then we have the countermeasures. It's 90, it's not the most amount, and it only drops 1 at a time, so you need to be a little bit careful. Sometimes you just simply don't have enough flares in the air because you thought, well, I pressed the button twice, but that's basically the equivalent of pressing it once on an F-15. So you need to be careful in head up. Now what you want to do when you find yourself in this position, you just kind of put the fires out, make sure that you nose down a little bit to pick up some speed. And then as you are like looking around with your HMD, you can just kind of R-73 everyone out of the air. That is the patented Cobra maneuver, as we call it. But you need to make sure that you nose down after this, and then you kind of just pitch up and fly it back into the next lobby, like we do right here. What is the strength of this plane? It's of course the weapon kit. So let's take a quick look at it. The radar is a little bit gimped. It's not that fantastic. It's not bad, I'm not rinsing it. But the radar is a little bit lacking, and sometimes it's very annoying to get a solid lock on people, especially with the HMD mode, or maybe even the ACM mode. At closer ranges it's kind of finicky. Longer ranges, I mostly use the HDN mode. Feels like it gives me a little bit more luck at longer ranges, it picks people up a lot easier. Luckily it's paired with an absolutely insane missile, which kind of alleviates the problem, because when you do get a solid lock, these missiles are pretty fucking nasty. R-27ERs, I like to just shoot 1 or 2 off at like 30 kilometers at the start of the match. And if I miss 1 or if I miss 2, it's not really a big deal, because I still have 8 other missiles left. Now this one is just gonna end up absolutely headbutting it. And why does this work so often? It's very simple. People get the warning for so long that they kind of just start ignoring it. When you shoot at someone and they don't start like notching it and they start dodging it, a lot of the times they will just kind of keep flying straight until they eventually headbutt it and go right back to the hangar. Of course, together with the HMD, the R-73s are just disgusting. You can kind of just lob them off. I like not directly looking at people, because very often they are not that familiar with them yet. There's a lot of new players at top tier right now that are trying to grind, and they think that you're shooting at someone else, and then the missile just curves in point blank, which I think is absolutely hilarious. Then we have the ACM mode, and this is why I absolutely fucking hate it. It very often locks the wrong thing because the box is so big. When you are in a dogfight, it's pretty helpful if you're, for say, a console player and you don't have enough buttons for all the binds, because you don't have to press a lock. But if you are on PC and you have enough buttons, just use the HMD. It's more than sufficient. It's way more reliable. And you have a lot more control over it, because you can choose when you lock someone and when you don't. And the box is a lot smaller instead of the absolute skyscraper that you put on your screen. That might be very distracting because you're trying to fly into it. The HMD, in my opinion, is also quite helpful because it does another thing. It limits you to 10 kilometers. And these missiles are extremely deadly within 10 kilometers. The first 1 or 2 kilometers, they're kind of iffy. Once these things are up to speed, they are absolute menaces. And if you only shoot them at like these 10 kilometer to 8 kilometer ranges, you will find yourself having pretty good success. Now I am lobbing them off at long range, and you see this in the background. But in general, I just like to use them within like 8 kilometers, because they are essentially secured kills if they aren't low enough to the deck. The reason I'm just launching them off at these ranges, if you skip forward, is because I have so many anyway, I might as well use them. These things are heavy, 350 kilograms a piece, which is like 700 pounds for our American viewers. They're heavy, they're really heavy, and having them not on your plane is very beneficial, because the flight performance isn't that fantastic. But we'll get into that in a second. I first want to showcase the R-27ETs. These are probably my favorite missiles in the game right now, together with the R-73s, because they're just dumb. You launch them off at like 8 kilometers from behind, from like side aspects, and you just wait for it to do its thing. And it's essentially an ER, except it has a seeker that uses IR signatures. Fantastic, right? So it's an ER that doesn't want people. The only issue is when you shoot at long range, especially people that are somewhat contested, they might accidentally flare it because they are trying to flare someone else. So I like to go for people that are behind someone else, people that are just past the head-on. You want to kind of read the battle. You need to look at who is about to be free, and the second they are completely uncontested, very often you can just sling an ET at them and they will find themselves dying very quickly. Now, I don't have many dogfights today, but I'm going to show you one right here. It's a J8F. Now we merge a little bit fast, so we are going to air brake and slow down to make sure that we cut inside of his turning circle. Now yes, I should have just ran away, but I want to see what this plane can do. We are on medium to low fuel. We merge with him, we are going to cut throttle, we are going to make sure that we are slower than him, and this is the beauty of the plane. You just kind of cut inside of people because you are so slow. In this regard, it's basically like the MiG-29 SMT. It's a missile bus, people, and I'm kind of sad to say it, the flight performance isn't all that. Now that example that I had right there before you started rinsing me in the comments, yes, I know that was a bad fight, but I'm just trying to show you what this plane can and can't do, and I'll show you more of it in these next two clips, which showcases it a little bit more fairly. At higher speeds, it's okay. It holds its speed decently. It's fast enough. It gets around. Acceleration is good enough. The issue is once you start breaking that 700, maybe 800 kilometers an hour mark, and this thing basically turns into something like the Super Mystere B2. The energy retention is absolutely abysmal, even when you do try to keep your afterburners on, even when you do try to maintain your speed at medium to low speed, it's going to disappear. And if someone wants you dead, you likely are going to be. This thing is all offense, and it has literally zero defense. All of them maybe trying to be slow enough so that you turn inside of someone so you can just shoot off an HMD R73. It's okay at that, and against the average War Thunder player, you're probably gonna have enough hands to do something. But don't expect to win many dogfights in this thing unless you have a massive fuel gap, and even then it's rough. It's not a dogfighting plane. It's a plane to just kind of throw in, shoot your missiles off, and leave. And that's the real way to play it. And I find it a shame. I was kind of looking forward to the dogfighting performance. But here we are. The F-15 and Su-27 are kind of role swapped in my eyes, because I thought that the F-15 was going to be the team plane and this was going to be more of the solo menace. And of course, this can be a solo menace because you have an absolute metric load of offensive capabilities. And if you come in at the right time, you can clean an entire lobby in the span of 15 seconds. Sure. But if someone wants you dead, you're gonna have issues. And you can maintain your speed, especially at higher speeds, as you can see right here. Or you can, of course, manage your turns very carefully. The issue really arises once you start getting pressured. Once you start getting pressured and you need to start turning hard, you're basically instantly third party. This plane is okay in the 1v1. But it's still going to be super risky, and I'll show you that in just a second here. But let's start cleaning this lobby up. We have two R-27ETs, and they are going to go off the rail very quickly here. So I turn my radar off. I don't want to warn anyone, and then I'm thinking I might go for the radar shot on this Su-27 over here. But I think to myself, no, I can lock in with my ET, and I'm going to make sure that I do not lock in with my ACM mode. He was just out of range of it. He doesn't get a warning. Turn the radar back off, and I'm just going to kind of cruise, keep my distance. And because there are no real threats to those two enemies over there, they are not going to be flaring, and the Su-27 catches an 11 kilometer side shot ET. So we turn the radar back on, we go head on with the F-16. Absolutely slam him out of the air. Queue up an R-73. And this F-15, if he doesn't flare properly at this kind of range, he is going to have an issue. And then F-16 arises. It's an F-16A. We start notching, and this right here is why I still run Chaff in 2023. It's very helpful. It helps with notching a tremendous amount, and it makes the window quite a bit smaller. And Chaff also got a bit of a buff, I think, making it a lot easier to actually notch stuff. But now we need to go defensive against an F-16. It's an F-16 AJ, so he only has AIM-9Ls. We are going to jettison the ERs because they are hella heavy. And we are going to try to go underneath his nose and make sure that we are going slow enough to just kind of shoot him out of the air. Now I have two R-73s, and I'm going to use both of them right here because I need to, and because of that I kind of fat finger the fact that I have my air brake out. That is the way you use this speed bleed, that is the way you reverse people. You just go so slow that they overshoot and they fly through your nose, and if they fly through your nose at like super close ranges, the R-73 is absolutely deadly. But if these fights go sustained, you're boned. You don't have the acceleration to get away from a lot of stuff, especially at lower speeds. You lose too much speed, you don't drop enough countermeasures, you are absolutely humongous. I can't really put into words just how big this thing really is. I can put a level 1 pilot in like a Blenheim with a 1.7mm on the wingtip, and he is gonna kill me if I'm slow. This thing is so easy to hit. And this also makes it even harder to dodge AIM-9Ms. It makes it even harder to dodge Magic 2s. Because you are just so big. If that missile explodes near you, they basically have an entire continent to hit. And basically everyone is going to hit you. So be careful when you're trying to reverse someone. If you try to make yourself slow, if you start cobraing. If you give someone a cobra, you're gonna basically fill their entire screen with your plane. And you are just going to die. Cobras are not useful, people. I know that a lot of you know this, but they just don't work in an actual game. You already lose all of your speed instantly as it is, and we don't need to strengthen that fact even more. Now again, we are in a bit of a team fight. I come in, I launch all my missiles off, and we need to re-engage. The Gripen is a plane that I can't really fight if he knows what he's doing. I'm gonna have issues with him. He is basically my hard counter, and it's not because it is a Gripen, but the Gripen just holds its speed very well, and it can kind of just hammer its elevator behind us, and we are forced to maintain our speed. And he will turn like 3 times as well while maintaining the same kind of energy, which is it's basically impossible for us. So we come in here, we have a Mirage and a JS-39. So we shoot the R-73 off on the guy. He's way too slow, he can't really dodge it. And the JS is gonna kind of like do a wide loop behind us, so I'm just gonna leave. That's a horrible position to be in. I can maybe try to do something, but he's already half behind us. Now he's completely behind us, but at least now I can make him dive on us and try to make him go too fast to the point where he will overshoot and compress. Now that's the way you have to pray. Now we want to go about 1000, maybe a little bit faster. I bled a little bit too much speed. He has his energy trapped, but I need to go slow enough to actually pull inside of him, so I can R-73 him out of the air. Here it comes, but he's pre-flaring. The JS-39 just has way too many flares, and it's gonna bite us in the ass a little bit. But because we are behind him, we have the ability to just kind of force him away, push him off, and gain our energy back as we are trying to reel him back in. Now he is gonna out-accelerate us, but because we have the position, we can play it a little bit more aggressively, and as we told you, aggressively this plane is pretty damn good. So we get below him, he starts nosing down on us, and we shoot him out of the air. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for watching, and you'll see me in the next one.